So I just went into carnivore because it was simpler and I lost some weight. I felt better. But the big thing was that I realized at the end of 30 days that I had no blepharitis in my eyes anymore. And I'm like, whoa, I haven't taken any doxycycline because I would take it when I started feeling it coming on to prevent the flare up.
If you've been watching, you know that I take my ingredients very seriously, but there are three companies that I have found that I absolutely love. Check the description for discount codes. Hello, welcome to my show. My name is Adrienne. This is a series where I interview different people who've inspired me to live a healthier life. Today, I have my friend Tony with me. He's a certified natural trainer, and from the Rivero, he's a carnivore and fasting coach. He also has a master's degree in sports, fitness, and recreational leadership, and a bachelor's degree in physical education. So he has just a wealth of background and education. So I'm really excited to have a conversation with him today about just physical activity and overall health. So thank you so much for joining me today.
I appreciate you having me on, Adrian.
Could you tell us a little bit about how did you decide to go into that for college and a little background on yourself?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I actually went to college my first year to be a PR agent. Yeah, I went into PR and marketing, and I thought that's what I was going to do the rest of my life. And I got into the field, and I was going to different conventions and events, and it just seemed very fake to me. And it's just like people were kind of scheming a little bit, and it sounded like people would step over their own mother to like get a job opportunity. It was kind of like a cutthroat situation. And I was like, I kind of don't like the business side of marketing and public relations. And it's kind of funny. I was talking to my mom one day and she goes, I'm like, I really don't enjoy this. I don't like it. She worked for the police department. My father's a firefighter. I'm like, I'll just be a cop or a firefighter. Like I'll just do that. And it's something I really didn't want to do. I just know their hours and all those things. And didn't want that lifestyle. And she's like, why don't you become a PE teacher? And I'm like, I don't know about that. She goes, do you love sports? I'm like, yeah. And I was already coaching wrestling while I was in college. And I'm like, she's like, yeah, do something you really want to do. She goes, I could see you as a PE teacher. So, like, literally that night went online, found DePaul College or DePaul University, I should say, in Chicago, and they have a PE department and a program. And I signed up, and then I became a PE teacher, and that's where that whole thing just shifted. So I got into physical education teacher, got into fitness and training, got my master's degree, and I've been a PE teacher. This is going to be my 14th year teaching coming up, and I'm like, oh, it's been a long time.
Wow. So, did you play sports in college or high school, or what's your sports background?
Yeah, I played football. I loved football, and the big sport was wrestling. I did some track and field too. I didn't really enjoy track and field as much, but wrestling was the big one for me. Going in or after college, I just started coaching, and I wanted to wrestle a little bit in college. I had a couple opportunities, like nothing Division 1, but like D3. But I just didn't want to cut weight, and that's a big thing. And that's kind of the reason I do what I do now, because my relationship with food has changed so much over the years. But back then in high school, getting out of high school into college, I just had a bad relationship with food and I just did not want to cut weight anymore. I love the sport, but that's one thing I didn't like about it. So I ended up coaching and found a passion for coaching wrestling.
So, could you tell us a little bit about your relationship with food? Like, were you standard American diet all your life?
We're Italian Chicago family diet. So,
Mhm.
as if anybody that's been, around the Chicago land area, like there's just so much good food out here. And my family is just, they're all Italian. And when we would order food for anything, any event, any whatever, it's just trays of pasta and pizzas. It's just desserts. It's like so much food. It's unreal how much food we would order, and everybody would have to leave like with food. You can never have enough, and it's just crazy. And it's that plus I call it Pop-Tart kids, right? Like, we were able to get Pop-Tarts out of the cabinets and out of the pantries and get what we kinda wanted and things out of a box. You know, my mom worked, my dad worked, so when we were at home, we were just eat like crap, and I gotta send you some pictures too, I have them. They're ridiculous. Like, I was so heavy as a kid. um
Really?
Oh my god, I was a big boy. I had the husky pants, right? My dad's, like, trying to clip the pants on because 'cause I'm too big for him now, and it was crazy. I was so overweight as a kid, and I made a decision, I think about end of my 6th grade year, maybe, like, that summer going into 7th grade year, that I'm gonna start, like, getting healthy and working out because I just didn't like being that overweight. So I literally would just run. I first started running and jogging, and it wasn't very fast or anything like that, but I remember I used to run through the alleys when I started working out because I didn't wanna run on the sidewalk because I didn't want my friends to see me running. So, I would just start running. Then we had, like, a little, fitness kinda center, in Melrose Park where I grew up, and I would just go to, this fitness center and work out, probably doing everything wrong, but I just needed to do something, and there was no YouTube, no
Right.
Instagram back then. So I'm just like trying to figure out how to work out and it's just by advice or magazines or what people tell you. So yeah, it took me a long time. And then by the time I got into 8th grade, freshman year, I slimmed down a lot. I mean, I lost a ton of weight and I hit a little bit of a growth spurt my 7th grade year too. But that addiction to food, like I was just starving myself. Like that's how I
Mhm.
lost weight. I just worked out more and I ate less. And that was very unsustainable. And going into my high school years, I would just yo yo up and down. Like wrestling season would come around, I would just stop eating, just work out more, and then just feel miserable for a whole season. And then as soon as the season's over, I just binge. I mean, the wrestling team, I don't know if you know, do you guys have CC's Pizza where you're from? You know what CC's is? It's like a pizza buffet out here. I don't even know if they're here anymore. But my wrestling team went there after our season and they ran out of like the pizza dough because we just ate so much. And it was crazy. But that stuck with me, just my family being around food. And that's the identity of them is to be around food. And it's a big deal, and it's their priorities in the wrong spot, and so I've had to, like, cut back on those things and really think about when I'm eating, what am I eating for? Why am I eating? What's gonna give me or what's gonna make me feel really good versus having this pleasure of food and stuffing my face, so getting over that, has changed a lot, and just by changing myself to a diet that works for me and it's a proper human diet, I feel so good right now. I feel better now than I did in my 20s. I'm 35. I feel fantastic.
I had no idea we were gonna relate so much. How did I not hear this whole story? Tony and I have had dinner together at Hack Your Health, and then we've done a podcast together. I had no idea. I had the middle school switch too, where I went from being pudgy to I am going to run and restrict and I'm going to work this off. I've done a lot of the track too, and I did that like as a cross training, even though I hated it. So then when you went to college, did you have any issues or did you just keep working out and keep restricting, or how did college go for you? Because it went awful for me.
Yeah, I was just actually it's funny. I was on Jake Thomas's podcast yesterday, and the one thing I was telling him about was, and my one friend, his name's Mike Spitz, and he's a great dude. He went to college in the city, and I was going to college in the city, and he's like, "Oh, let's meet up for lunch." And so I went to meet him for lunch my freshman year, and down in the Loop area, and I'd never forget. I had like a messenger bag on, and I'm walking up and I see him and he's looking at me and he's looking past me. He's like, and this is my friend from high school. So he's just looking around, looking around. I go, Mike, hey. He goes, oh, hey, Tony. I gained like 50 from my senior year of high school to my freshman year of college. I gained like 50 pounds.
Wow, we have way more in common than I was thinking.
Yeah, I gave, and he's like, he told me later, he goes, "Yeah, man, I didn't recognize you." And he goes, "You had that mailbag strap, and your like pudge was going over it." And I remember him telling me that, and I said, "Shit, man, I'm getting heavy." And just because it was all
Yeah.
about, because I wasn't doing sports anymore. I was
Mhm.
partying, hanging out, eating out, just no restriction at all. I would just eat whatever I wanted. And because I was an athlete, I thought I could get it off quicker. But I was just going out so much and eating like crap, and that was important to me at the time, was hanging out with friends and eating and drinking and going out. So, I made a decision then. I was like, well, running worked for me in the past, so I started doing marathons. I started training with marathons. My diet didn't change, but my activity level changed, which I got thinner, right? I started working out, lifting more. But the one thing was the relationship with food. It was still a bad relationship. And I would gorge and I would eat and I would binge. I would do a whole week good, like eating really good whole foods, and a weekend, deep dish pizza, beef sandwiches, tacos, whatever I can get my hands on the weekend because it was a cheat meal. And I would just keep going. And the problem was I would yo yo big time.
Mhm.
I would be committed, lose a ton of weight. I mean, talking like I would lose, my swings would go 20, 30 pound swings. Losing 30
Mhm.
pounds, gaining 30, 45 back, losing 25, gaining another 15. And I would just keep doing that. And so college, until I got just out of college, I went, and this like the big thing that got me to carnivore was my first steps were veganism. I, st-
What?
yeah.
Okay. You've
Yeah.
literally tried it all. How did vegan go for you?
It was great at first. Just out of college, I was going to a gym, and the gym was plant-based, vegan, and that was the big thing. The China study had come out, the forks over knives. The big push was red meat's going to kill you. We're supposed to be eating vegetables. Vegan is better for the environment. You should go vegan. It's better for you and better for other people. And I bought it hook, line, and sinker. And everybody at our gym was going vegan, and we would have like vegan meetups. We go to vegan dinners, and so I was vegan for 2 years. And about a year into it, I started noticing like my hair was falling out a little bit. I couldn't eat enough, but I also was so irritable and my gut was all jacked up. And I ended up like I started losing weight at the beginning, but then I ended up gaining it all back and then some, because I was having like tortillas, hummus, whatever, just crap out of a box, seitan, fake meat that doesn't, it's not even real. And then I started getting, the big one was belpharitis in my eyes, where you get
Mm.
flare ups, and it's like a sty in your eye. And I always say it's not the biggest thing in the world, but it would happen every month. I'd have to go into the doctor or get a refill, a prescription of antibiotics, of doxycycline. So I was on doxycycline for maybe a year, on and off of it for a year, because literally they're like, put hot compresses on your eyes, that'll help. Never worked, didn't do anything for me. I would just literally have these flare ups, and it sucked so bad. And then that, with my hair loss, with my gut being jacked up, I was like, "Dude, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing vegan anymore, not doing plant-based." And I kept hearing about keto, and everybody was talking about, like, you can eat as much fat as you want, you can eat as much steak as you want, and I love steak. I love bacon. I love all that stuff, and I restricted myself for 2 years. And I'm like, "Oh, man, I'm gonna try this keto thing," and I tried it, and I liked it. It was good. I still had the belpharitis, some gut issue here and there, but I can definitely feel my energy coming back. Started losing weight again, getting to how I felt like my normal natural weight. And then I heard the Sean Baker, uh, Joe Rogan podcast of the carnivore, and I was like, I'm like, that can't be healthy. There's no way. Just eating meat. And then I started like looking into it, because I was looking into it as like, well, I feel like vegetables are, in the real world, like without any farming, no like monocrop agriculture, like vegetables are really like kind of hard to come by in the wild. And I'm like, well, how were we eating thousands and millions of years ago? I was like, well, so maybe I'll try this. I was calling it a caveman diet at first. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try this caveman diet. Like, it's called carnivore. And I did it for 30 days. And I did it for weight loss originally, and because the simplicity of it, because I didn't know, like, how many net carbs do I have in keto? And how much of this should I have? How much fat? So I just went into carnivore because it was simpler and I lost some weight. I felt better. But the big thing was that I realized at the end of 30 days that I had no blepharitis in my eyes anymore. And I'm like, whoa, I haven't taken any doxycycline because I would take it when I started feeling it coming on to prevent the flare up. I was like, holy crap. I'm like, I'm going to try this for another month. And then I tried it for another month and no blepharitis. And I was like, wow. And I felt better. My sleep was good. My recovery was good. And so I just stuck with carnivore. It was literally a 30-day thing. And then it turned into a lifestyle.
How long ago was that?
So I started carnivore probably, I kind of started it right before the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit, and then that all went out of the window, like because we're staying in
Yeah.
all day, and then we're like, oh, we're gonna be off for 2 weeks, and let's have
We're all gonna
pizza.
die anyway.
Yeah, and I was drinking a lot, and it was just inside. It was just not a good that was not good for me, and so as soon as things started opening up back again, I was heavier again. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go back onto the carnivore," and then I did the first, like, legit 30 days, and then that's when it all, like so this is, like, 4 years for me right now. So from 20 the probably, like, 2020 to now, about 4 years.
Amazing. Has the eye thing ever come back?
If I eat something that is, like, highly processed, or if I have, like, like, sometimes depends on the wine, like a red wine, for some reason, like, it'll start to flare up a little bit, but it won't ever come back fully where I need to, like, go get antibiotics. I mean, it would get to the point where it looked like I got punched in the face. It
Wow.
got so bad.
How's your gut?
Great. It's fine now. I mean, when I was eating vegan, man, I just felt
You needed an
bloated.
incinerator toilet when you're vegan, right?
Oh my god, seriously, yeah, the Toilet.
Yeah.
Full circle story. If you want the full Toilet story, check out our Hack Your Health review with
Yeah.
myself, James Lehman, Casey Ruff, and Adrian, um, for the incinerator toilet story. But yeah, I just could not stop going to the bathroom. I couldn't, like, eat enough, and my grocery bill, I always say this too,
Yes.
carnivore is so much cheaper than any other diet. It's just meat, and you put it in the freezer, and you never when you need it, you thaw it, and you never have to worry about it. I remember when I was vegan, and I literally would throw out one of those big, like, spring salad big things from Costco out every week because I would, like, not use it, and it would be like mush at the bottom, and I would just throw out so much food. It's
Yeah.
such a waste.
Yes, and all the ingredients in the keto recipes, you're like hunting for cassava flour or whatever weird flour they've come up with recently, and you're looking for all these weird things. And it's just nice to just get some meat, some one ingredient. How about going out to eat? For me, everywhere I go, I always pick a place that will let me order a la carte. I'm not going to the places that are going to charge me for 2 meals. But the places that let you order a la carte, I'm always the cheapest one, and I got a whole pile of meat on my plate. I don't know. What do you think?
You gotta learn the hacks. I mean, depends. It used to be Five Guys. Like, if you wanted to go to Five Guys is just expensive. It's like
Mhm.
13, $14 for a burger, but if you I think they caught on to this and you can't do it anymore, but you can order solo patties, and they're $1.10 a patty, and you can go get solo patties. So I'd be like, "Can I get 6 solo patties?" So it'd be like $7, and the person next to me got a legit burger with only 2 patties, and it cost them like $16 with tax. Yeah, it's
That's how I feel about
crazy.
Buffalo Wild Wings. Applebee's is a good one.
Yeah,
I order the Applebee's patties, they're huge. I remember they charge $6 a patty or something, so I've spent $12 for a pound of meat, and my husband buys the whole meal, and he spent like $30 and his plate's this big, and
yeah.
his little piece of meat, and I'm like, "Oh, sorry, guess we won't come back here for you, but I can come back."
Yeah, and I honestly and I go to steakhouses with friends, and we go out to eat, and it's great, but it's pricey. Food's expensive, and I
Mhm.
feel like I cook I like how I cook steaks, and sometimes I'm at a
Yes.
steakhouse, I'm like, I feel like I do a better job. And not that I'm
Mhm.
like a crazy amazing chef or anything, but salt, uh, grill it right, you know, and get it medium rare, good crispy on the outside. May sear the little fat edge, and then throw some salt flakes on that, some molten salt or whatever, and boom, you're good. And it's like restaurant quality.
Way better than restaurant quality because it
Yeah.
doesn't come with any of the seed oils too. Yeah,
Hmm.
I like to eat at home now too. So I met your mom at the recent meetup, and I think I remember her say something about eating more meat now.
Oh, my mom? Yeah, she. So I'm very proud of her. She's lost a ton of weight. She was getting kinda heavy probably, like, 2 years ago or so, and she knows, like me, I've done all the diets. When I was vegan, I was like, "Ma, you gotta eat more plants, mom. Ma, you gotta eat more plants." But now I'm on this diet, and I tell her, I'm like, "I feel so good. I'm losing weight. My energy feels amazing." I'm like, "I really think you should be eating more meat," because it was very my family is very heavy carb. Everything is carb. Like, yeah, they might have pork chops, but they're breaded. They're doing
Mhm.
pizza, they're doing pasta, Chinese food, beef sandwiches, hot dogs. Like, that's a typical week of eating for my family. It's just junk. And so now she's started to take, like, she'll do burgers without the bun. And then she might have a side salad or whatever, and that's better than some of the other things. She avoids pasta, now. She doesn't do any big starches. So it's a fatty protein with, like, a salad. And, like, I think she can't get over, like, just eating meat because she's been instilled, like, all of us, right? We've been told that vegetables are good for you and red meat is not. So I think she can't get over that hump a little bit, but she just has a little salad. She has chicken. She does a ground beef, maybe pork chop that's not breaded, and she's lost weight. She's doing resistance training now. She does. She was in a self defense class. She has perfect attendance. I have to mention that, and she does water aerobics and walking. So she feels good. She's 60, gonna be 68, and she's looks good and she's moving well. And so I'm so proud of her, and I'm just happy that she's happy and feeling good.
What'd she think of meeting all the meat eaters? Was she like, maybe you're onto something here?
I think she was like maybe skeptical at first. I'm like, I'm going to a meetup, and she's like, a meetup. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, meat, like meat, meat. And she was like,
Yeah.
oh. And she goes, so what are you guys gonna do? I'm like, we're gonna walk around, and then we're gonna go eat meat after. She's like, okay, cool, cool. Uh, but after she started like hearing people's stories, I don't think she even knew what to expect. This was my first one, so I didn't really know what to expect. And she just starts talking to everybody, and she's like, everybody's so nice, and wow, this person lost this much weight. This person healed this autoimmune issue by just eating meat. She's like, wow, this really works. And I was like, yeah, mom, I'm telling you.
And the energy of meat eaters, we're just kind of a happy, positive energy. It's right.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool that she came.
Yeah.
So you are now a coach. Are you still coaching wrestling?
No, I don't coach wrestling anymore. I took a step back like 2 years ago because I was coaching wrestling since I was like 22. So I did like 10 years of coaching wrestling and uh, head wrestling coach for a lot of the time. And it just takes a lot of time. I love the sport, but I've done 10 years of it. I need to sometimes you just gotta hang the whistle up for a little bit. And plus, my school that I work at doesn't have a wrestling team. I was traveling to other schools to coach for them, and the travel was just too much. So I ended up just breaking away, but still love the sport.
But you are coaching and you're a kettlebell coach as well?
Uh,
Kettlebell.
Kettlebell, that you just sound like my ma right there. How's the kettleballs going? Like,
It
ma, the
looks really cool.
kettlebells.
You post some videos, and I honestly have never put that much stock into it. Like you were saying in a recent interview, they're everywhere. So I just assume it's just like another lifting thing. But then I was watching some of your videos on Instagram, and it can be quite the well rounded workout with the right coaching.
Yeah, the problem is so the kettlebell It's been around for a long time, but it's been popular a lot. Like it's very popular now, and because it looks flashy and it's cool, and you see people do all this different things with it. You can do juggling with it. Like it gets kind of crazy what people do and put on Instagram. So people see it, and like you'll see them at hotels, you see them at like big box gyms, and people will program kettlebell movements to have some variety. But, I got my certification through Strong First, and, I'm gonna say his last name wrong, it's so hard to pronounce. Pavel Tsatsouline, he pretty much introduced the kettlebell, and the principles behind strength training to, like, the United States and, like, the West. He's like a Russian, like, special ops guy, and he brought a lot of the kettlebell training over here because that's what they were doing in Russia. And there, a lot of the athletes, Olympic athletes, were using kettlebells and having really great success. So he brings that over here, and now we have more of a structured programming for kettlebell usage and proper technique. So when you have a kettlebell, it's so versatile. It checks all like it checks a lot of the boxes. I would say not all the boxes because I do barbell work, I do other things, but most of the boxes, if you're trying to get physically fit and you don't have time and you're just focused on minimalist training, I'm going to get as much training as I can in a little amount of time with the least amount of equipment. A kettlebell is the way to go. Like you don't need a bunch of fancy stuff. You need yourself and a bell. And yeah, I love it. I love the minimalist aspect of it. I think it's safe, especially if you're doing some of the movements, they're safe if you're using the proper weights. And my body doesn't feel banged up as much as if I'm doing heavy barbell work. And they all have their places, but I feel when I want to train, it's I can go to the gym and just do some kettlebell swings, some Turkish get ups, some mobility stuff with a bell and have fun with it. And I don't got to drag myself to the gym. Whereas if I'm like crushing myself on crazy machines all the time, like I don't want to go there. I just would rather
Yeah.
I would rather skip. But it's fun. It's different. There is a learning curve to it. But I think people that are working at home or need to get a quick workout in, have kids, have a job. If we're talking about what's going to be consistent for you, that bell is going to be right at your house. You don't got to go anywhere. Like it's there. And you can go and get your workout in 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops and be more productive with a bell than driving to the gym or whatever 10, 15,
Hmm.
however long it is to get to the gym, then getting to the gym and then finding your machine and then waiting for a machine and then getting out of there and coming back. It's over an hour, when
Hmm.
I could just keep a
For
bell at
sure.
the
Or two or
house.
three. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, where would it like, I don't think that there's any certified instructors near me, so how would I learn kettlebells? Is there like a YouTube channel or what would you suggest for people like me?
Yeah, so if you on Strong First, like that's who I get certified from. I'm a level 2 kettlebell instructor. Strong First has a website, and you can literally go on the website for Strong First and just type in your area code, and then it'll give you a map of any instructors that are close by, or you could just look up instructors and they'll have all the contact information. And then again, I think that people that really want to commit to this is you need an instructor for the first part, but once you get the technique down, it's more about the programming. But yeah, you go in Strong First and find any coach. And I wouldn't say here's the thing. Like there's a lot of kettlebell people on Instagram. I'm gonna be very honest. And it looks flashy, it looks sexy, it looks cool, but you really gotta go with somebody that has a certification. I think Strong First is a very good school of strength. Their counterpart is called RKC, which is Russian Kettlebell, certification, so RKC instructors are very good as well. I would be remiss if I didn't include them, but I would say Strong First or RKC instructors. You go on any of their websites, you can find either somebody in your local area or somebody around that can help.
Awesome. Okay. So, and you're these days, so We were kinda talking about this before, and you're doing some running, but you're not doing these marathons anymore. How come you dropped the marathons?
Yeah, the last big endeavor I did was an Ironman, and
Oh.
and it was great, and that's how I met Casey Ruff. He was my carnivore coach. Uh, I got a hold of him through MeatRx at the time, and they had carnivore coaches on MeatRx, and uh, I was doing carnivore. I liked it a ton. I didn't want to change my diet. I was reaching out to coaches because I never did Ironman before. I did marathons, but I never did an Ironman. And this is like 2020. We're still locked down. I'm like, well, I've always wanted to do it. It looks so cool on TV. That's gonna be badass, like to do an Ironman. Well, if we can't do anything anyways, I might as well just train for something. So that's why I got into the Ironman because I was getting a little too thick from sitting around and drinking and having pizza. So I got my butt into shape and I enjoyed the training. I loved it. You know, it was a big accomplishment. I trained for about a year, consistently of lifting weights, long runs, long bikes, swimming sessions, and it kind of became my identity a little bit. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna be doing this forever. But then I started realizing, like, you know, I I like hanging out with my friends. I
Mhm.
like going to places and going to a concert at night, and I don't have to worry about my long run in the morning, or my 100-mile bike ride that I gotta do, and I'm like, you know, I just don't think if you wanna do and I tell people, like, I didn't do the Ironman to get healthy. Like, I did it because I had a goal and I wanna accomplish the task of completing Ironman, and I wanted to be an Ironman. I didn't necessarily do it to be healthy, and I think that's where people get in this aspect of, "I have to run a race, or I have to run every week, and I have to train, I have to do so many races because I'm a racer, and this is how I'm healthy." I think that I can be as healthy when I was Ironman training, if not healthier, by not doing hours and hours and hours of running and biking, and it's not what I wanna do with my life right now. I'm good with going into the gym, working out for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, maybe going on some long runs. Just the time and what's the cost? Like, my time, my body, my mental state. I think, like, I've completed what I wanted to complete, and I was proud of it, and I'm happy that I finished an Ironman, but then I checked that box and I just didn't feel like I wanted to do it anymore. So that's why I stopped doing, big races.
There is that dopamine hit off of completing, checking the box. And for people who don't know what an Ironman is, could you just tell real quick?
Yeah, so you do a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike ride, followed by a marathon, 26.2-mile run.
So, no big deal. That's
The
awesome, and you completed it.
Yeah, I did it primarily carnivore too, and I say primarily carnivore because the only thing that I would have every now and again, I wasn't like doing the lion diet per se, but every now and again I might have some yogurt or some like fruit, but that was it. And I did a half Ironman completely fasted, for, like, in
Wow.
my training. I would do all my training fasted and just be fat adapted and taking no carbs, and I think I wanna say and I ballpark this a little higher than I should, but on the day of the Ironman, I think I had less than 50 carbs the whole entire it took me 15 hours to complete the Ironman, and I think I had less than 50 carbs. And everybody that
Amazing.
I talked to, everybody after and this is why I started coaching, and being a carnivore coach, because everybody I talked to after the race didn't even wanna look at food. They're like, "My stomach hurts. Oh my god," because they're taking all the gel blocks and, just the Gatorade and everything, and so their GI there's so many GI issues that's why people drop out of races more of the time. It's not because they can't physically do it, because they have GI distress, and I'm like, "I feel good." They're like, how many gel blocks did you have?" I'm like, 0. They're like, "What? What did you eat?" I'm like, "Oh, I had like a fat bomb. I had like 2 fat bombs and a UCAN, and it's gotta be 50 carbs, maybe." And I'm like, "That's all I had." And they're like, "What? How did you survive?" I'm like, "I'm on the carnivore diet." They're like, "What the fuck? What?" How's that possible? It's because when you are not a sugar burner and you get to be a fat burner, I don't care if you're skinny. Like, if you have some body fat on you, which you like, unless you're like 1% body fat, but as long as you have some body fat on you, you can go run and do long endurance things, and your body will tap into the fat and you'll be using that as fuel. I mean, a pound of fat is 3,500 calories, roughly a little bit over 100 calories per mile. You go 35 miles. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's there is something to the diet for endurance and for athletic purposes. I think that a ketogenic carnivore diet is more beneficial, especially when you're going to the endurance realm, than the typical sugar burning, high carb, I got a carb load diets, because you constantly eating, and now your body's fighting to digest the food, but you also need blood to go to your legs. And it's just like your body's fighting against itself. And that's why you don't get any glucose to your brain. And then you bonk and then you collapse in the middle of the race, or you can't finish the race because of whatever issue. So that's why when that happened, when I finished and I felt great, and the next day I was good, I said, carnivore is the way to go.
This is something I wish more people knew about. So I've been walking some half marathons, and I was at this one that was so well organized, and they had great sponsors, and every 2 miles they offered those blocks for free. And then they also had these dishes of candy and bananas, and everything was sugar, and people were like, "Oh, it's time for my recharge. Oh, it's time for my recharge." And it's like, "But I've been training and training and training. Why do I need a recharge every 2, 3 miles?" Because you're crashing and crashing and crashing. And I wish I would have known this as a high school athlete, because you would just train and train and train, but yet still feel like crud part of the way in. I wish I would have known about this then. I've never done this, but since going carnivore, I have not tried this. But when you start running and it's almost like the first mile, you kind of feel like, ugh, and then you switch over into your fuel. Do you still get that with carnivore?
I mean, because I literally just run off of ketones and my body fat. I don't feel like there's a kick in or anything. I'm just this is the way that I operate, and I most of my if I ever do runs, the only thing that would be in my system is water and maybe some like coffee. That's it. It's like just barely any calories,
Mhm.
and I'll take off and feel good. I never have to really worry about fuel. It's kind of funny too. A lot of people have mentioned this. The people that I talk to that are on a ketogenic or carnivore diet, and they do workouts or races or whatever, we don't drink as much water. It's weird.
Mhm.
Yeah. So like I might have a water bottle with some electrolytes, one water bottle, one pack of electrolytes. I'll do an 18-mile run, not need anything to eat. And then I would do that before work. And I'd come into work and like shower and whatever. And people would be like, dude, did you just go for a run? I'm like, yeah. They're like, how long? I was like, 18 miles. They're like, dude, it's 6 in the morning. And I was like, yeah, you gotta get it in.
That is so interesting, because I don't drink as much either, and it makes sense because isn't the glycogen in your muscles is water, and so you're burning that, so then it wants it to be replaced? Do you think that's what's happening?
That plus, you know, we we have a lot of sodium too, and I think that's
Mhm.
also a thing where with the carnivore diet, you're free to like salt your meat to your liking. You have
Mhm.
sodium packets. You're not afraid of salt. So I think because we have your body's running very efficiently and you have some sodium in your system already, that you don't need as much water as you think. And it plus is really there's people that I know that do races dry fasted, which is I think Jake Thomas does that too, where you don't have water or food, and you run perfectly fine. So I think it's just we also have this thing in the back of our head too of I need to have this sports drink, and like you were saying, like the shot blocks every 2 miles. It's just this marketing thing. Like they can't make any money. Nobody can make any money off of fasted runners. They can only make money off of people that are taking the energy drinks and the shot blocks and the pre-workout, the post-workout shake, all that stuff. That the whole industry is just geared towards getting people hooked on this shit because they wanna be athletic or healthy or they're racing. It's so backwards.
This is why I was wondering if you were still coaching because, in the wrestling world, can you imagine if you were like, "Listen, guys, we're gonna fuel our bodies, and you can cut eating meat and stay fueled, and maybe there's not quite the ricochet afterwards because of it," and it'd be interesting to be a
Ye
meat coach.
I mean, while I was coaching at one point, like, I was carnivore. I was doing carnivore while I was coaching, and that's the thing, it's like and I mean, I'm a teacher, right? I'm a coach. I work with youth athletes, high school athletes. I can I can tell them certain things, and I feel comfortable saying certain things, but there's certain things that I don't say. Like I would love for them to like try carnivore, but I never tell them that. And everybody, especially, you know, you have parents that subscribe to a different diet or subscribe to
Mhm,
this diet. So my big thing with especially young athletes is getting them to realize, yes, drink like taking in the water, not taking in the energy drinks, not taking in sugary drinks. You don't need Gatorade all the time. Maybe a little bit, like, I used to tell my wrestlers, like, a half a Gatorade and fill the rest with water for, like, a tournament, like, that you don't need all this crap. Anything that's out of a box with a ton of ingredients, I'm like, "Just have whole foods,"
mhm.
whether you're eating I said some like, a good protein, some vegetables, like a rice, whatever, like, that should be, like, a good meal for you versus, what the kids always wanna bring. What's those, peanut butter and jellies that are, like, its own thing? Oh god, Smuckers?
Oh, yeah, the Uncrustables.
And Uncrustables to, like, the wrestling meats. I'm like, "Okay, that's probably not the best thing to be eating. There's just so much crap in there, it's not even real food." But we would always bring them like, bananas and, some fruit and, like, I'd have beef jerky and some other stuff, like, things that were just simple ingredient foods and just try not to get them to eat like absolute crap because they will eat like flaming hot Cheetos and walking tacos and all the hot dogs and I'm like, nah, just let's eat this way. And the parents can get wrap their head around that. The kids can wrap their head around that. If I were to preach a ketogenic or a carnivore diet, they'd be like, what? No, my kid's not.
Yeah,
My kid's not having fat. What are you talking about? That's wrong.
and I think ultimately, as long as you're metabolically healthy, like maybe you haven't dieted your whole life, maybe you haven't eaten tons of seed oils and junk food, and your metabolism's healthy, a whole foods diet is great, I think. Especially for kids who are growing and yeah, I like the whole foods thing. That's
Mhm.
very versatile. And so I always just tell people just eat more meat and cut some of the processed stuff because not everybody's going to get on board with what we're doing.
Yeah, I say this all the time, like, I always wanna say carnivore is not for everybody, and, like, it could be for you, if you try it out, and try it for 30 days, that's how a lot of people get hooked onto it, but
Hmm.
getting just the basics of I feel okay consuming more animal protein, animal fats, and not feeling this like dogma that like this is I'm doing something wrong because that's getting over the hump of a lot of people is they feel like because this is what we we eat meat all the time that we are going to die of heart attacks and our cholesterol is going to be skyrocketed through the roof and that we're going to like have heart failure, but this is the food that we've been eating for millions of years. It just so happened like very recently we since the 1950s you just see like industrialization of food and then oh lo and behold we shoot up disease, Alzheimer's, type 2 diabetes is off the charts. People used to have to fly around all over the world to find somebody that had type 2 diabetes and they'd be like, we got to study this person, how is this even possible? And now it's every day.
It's
Well,
rampant.
I think it's like 60% are either type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic.
Free. Hmm.
What are we doing? And you're gonna yell
Yeah.
you're gonna, like, tell me that like me eating meat is bad. We've been doing it for millions of years.
Have you had your numbers tested? Like, do you know how your cholesterol is?
I forgot I had it done last year, or the year before. I think it might have been the year before. And I had my numbers done, went in for my physical. And the lady is like, it wasn't even my regular doctor. It was just like, whatever. You just make the scheduling appointment and it's just like a regular physical. And she had my blood work and she goes, your HDL is high. Like, I'm gonna give you I think you should go on a statin. And I was like, no. And she goes, well, I think I was like two something, two whatever, 60, something like that. And she's like, yeah, we gotta get you on a statin. I was like, no, thank you. She goes, oh, okay. Then she proceeded to ask me about my flu shot, if I wanted to get a flu shot while I was there. I said, no, thank you. And she goes, okay, all right, thanks. And I was out the door. That was
Oh,
my
nice.
literally, she just went down the list of, like, checking things off. "Okay, you're not gonna take a stand. Do you want a flu shot? No? Okay. Alright, you're good." And that was it. And I was just like, "What is" didn't even ask me anything about my diet, my exercising, nothing. Didn't ask me a freaking thing. And I was like, "This is why the healthcare system is broken."
I've heard this saying that I've never met a person that said like, "Oh, I took that cholesterol pill and oh my gosh, I felt so great the next day. It really made me feel so much better to go on this." Most people feel nothing.
I think I wanna say I just saw it. There was something came out. Somebody in the carnivore space, I think, posted it. I gotta look back at it, and people can fact check me. But I think they said that they're finding that X amount of people, percentage of Americans, are on statins that don't need to be. Like, they're under the statin limit apparently, and they're on statins for no reason. And you're trading in. It's like, okay, yeah, you have high cholesterol, or compared to what you should have, or what the doctors say, and you're gonna take this, but you're gonna feel like shit from it. You're gonna have possibility of a variety of side effects. Like, how is that better? I don't get
Yeah.
it.
Like some of the brain side effects.
Yeah.
I know I take now as little medication as possible. I only take one thing for my chronic inflammatory response syndrome, but even that, even coming from a functional doctor, I know that there's a consequence somewhere for every single medicine we take. So you have to weigh that out. And that one's not on my list, but I'm definitely going to get my numbers rechecked. Nobody's ever been concerned. So I don't know if I've ever had that run in my entire life.
Yeah.
Crazy how I got to skip over that. Do you do any fasting now? Is that part of your thing? Are you an intermittent faster? Are you a one meal a dayer? Or do you just eat however you want? And do you track?
Uh, let's parse that out. Let's see. So I used to fast more. I used to do OMAD for sure, and I would do one meal a day, and I like that because of the simplicity of it. I just know from I was like a 4 to 6. Like, I would give myself a 2-hour window any time of that day between 4 and 6 to eat, and that was like a sweet spot for me. So if I eat too early, um, like, I wanna eat later in the night. But if I can just get like, I don't even eat breakfast. I never really eat breakfast. It's just coffee in the morning. And if I usually skip lunch, and I would just eat a bigger meal at the day, just for convenience pieces, and I felt good. I don't really do OMAD all the time anymore. I found that I feel a little bit better some days if I do, like a ground beef, like a pound of ground beef, for like breakfast. And especially if it's like coming from a workout or whatever, and I feel kind of peckish or kind of hungry, I'll have a pound of ground beef, and later in the day I'll have either another pound of ground beef or a steak or something, or burgers or what have you. So I play around with it. I think fasting is a great tool, and certain people can utilize the tool. I think people go overboard though. I've done 3-day fast, I've done 5-day fast, and I felt good. I don't think that's something that you should be doing consistently all the time. I think every once in a while is okay. I think OMAD is good. It just um I don't really want to lose weight right now. I don't really want to gain weight. I kind of like where I'm at. I'm not shredded by any means, um, but I have a good body fat percentage, and if I want to start losing a little bit of weight, I'll incorporate some fasting. I usually will do if I was getting kind of heavy during Ironman training, I would just like kind of on my recovery day, I would fast and I would just kind of bring my weight down a little bit. It's just like the one day, just one day a week fast. Um, but I kind of go, sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. But the fasting is important and people should all at least try it because I think if you can fast and you get into situations where there's no good food options, you're okay with not eating and you've done it before and it feels good. That's where I think fasting actually has its benefits. I think the autophagy is great. That's all good stuff. And it helps with weight loss and intermittent timing is good. But I think the biggest thing that the takeaway that people need to really grasp around fasting is not being compelled to eat and being okay with skipping whatever crap that's on the table at a party because you've done a 24-hour fast before. You're like, "Okay, I can skip that and I can feel fine."
Yeah, I definitely like to just throw different things around, keep my body guessing because I'm a person who's so regimented that my body catches on to things and then it doesn't work anymore. So it's good to just have all those different tools in your toolbox and play around with them. I love the idea of being able to fast. Well, here's what I love is that your channel is Tony underscore primal foundations. And so many of the things that you bring up that have made you feel better are very primal. Fasting is primal. Being outside and walking is primal. Running is primal. Eating meat is primal. Could you tell us just a little bit about your channel and where people can find you?
Yeah, my YouTube channel and my Instagram are Tony underscore Primal Foundations, primalfoundations.com. And I with the channel and everything and the podcast, I don't know what I'm doing, Adrian. I'm just out there, just I'm getting guests that I want to interview, and this gives me a platform to talk to people and have conversations and make connections about I've had a chiropractor on my podcast. I've had Bill Schindler on my podcast, archaeologist, Philip Ovadia, a heart surgeon. I've had plenty of carnivore people, coaches. Um, I've had trainers on, and I just get like I've had people with animal flow. Just all the things that I'm interested in, and that I think people can listen to and use as resources. That's why I do it, and that's why I I love making the connections and just talking about things that are super important. And we take all this stuff that we're talking about right now for granted. We
Mhm.
take it for granted so much because you're starting your podcast out and you're going to see it too. There's going to be that one Instagram message to you that's like, hey, like I caught this episode and I started my health journey. I caught
Mhm.
this episode. I started training differently, like whatever it may be. And you just get those, you're like, shit, that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah, people feeling better, absolutely spreading the word. And I think to myself often, even if just the people in my area find out about this, I'll be happy. Even if my next door neighbor is like, oh, my neighbor has a YouTube channel, let me check that out. And they learn a little bit or a seed is planted, even if it's just my dad and he sends it to his best friend and his best friend has diabetes and he considers eating a little bit more meat, then mission accomplished. Plus we get to talk and hang out and I really like that too. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Go check out Tony's channel. And on Instagram, you're going to get a little bit more variety too of just the training, the day to day, going out into different clubs. Like, I love that your workouts seem to be very community based, and that just keeps you going. You get to be with other people, you get to meet people, gets you inspired to get out. Because when it's just me, sometimes it's like, "Ah, I'll just skip it." But if you're with friends and stuff, it's a lot more fun to get there and to do it every day. And yeah. So I really appreciate you coming on my channel and sharing your story. I had no idea we had so much more in common than I ever even knew.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to you coming on my podcast and talking some shop for sure.
Yeah, we'll do that soon. Well, thank you again. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Have a great day.